0.004 seconds. How fast is that? Take a deep breath right now, before you finish inhaling. These 5 people are already dead. June 18, 2023. 4,000 meters down on the seabed, the Titan was crushed whole from the outside by the seawater. Note, not an explosion. It was crushed. The water crushed it, like you crushing an empty soda can. Crushing the can takes you 2 seconds. The seawater took just a few milliseconds. 5 people were inside. Each had paid $250,000 for a ticket. Together they were worth over $10 billion. Yet against the seawater, they didn't even get 0.004 seconds to struggle. When the recovery team dove down and faced that pile of debris, they fell silent for a long, long time. The intense pressure and heat of the implosion had torn the people and the sub into fragments, all mixed together. They needed DNA just to tell which pieces were human and which were the sub. And what makes it even more devastating, this submersible, which cost tens of millions to build, was steered with a Logitech F710 wireless game controller. Yes, the same kind of controller you game with. You can buy one online for about $30. 5 people rich enough to fly to space, bet their lives on a video game controller, then sank to nearly 4,000 meters, and never came back up. But you think that's the most absurd part? No. The real absurdity is only just beginning. The submersible CEO was named Stockton Rush. He was on board too, and he died too. So what's this guy's background? A Princeton graduate in aerospace engineering, a former pilot, from a family wealthy for generations. You'd think someone like that would understand safety best, right? But he once publicly said something to this effect. At a certain point, safety becomes pure waste. It stifles innovation. Let that sink in. A man about to take people nearly 4,000 meters into the deep sea thought safety was a waste. It's like a surgeon telling you washing his hands is too much trouble. Let's just start cutting. And he didn't just say it, he actually did it. The Titan's hull was a carbon fiber cylinder, capped at both ends with titanium. No manned deep-sea submersible anywhere in the world uses this design. Why? Because carbon fiber accumulates fatigue damage after repeated pressure cycles. Each dive subjects it to nearly 400 atmospheres. Each ascent releases that pressure. This cycle gradually creates microcracks and delamination inside the carbon fiber, invisible to the naked eye, but a little more with every dive, and a little more, until one time, the structural integrity suddenly fails. No warning, no leak, it just disintegrates. In engineering it's called brittle fracture, the most dangerous failure mode. And what's more frightening, he had been warned. In 2018, more than 30 experts from the Marine Technology Society co-signed a letter, stating clearly that the design could lead to catastrophic consequences, and recommending independent certification. Rush refused. He even mocked the experts as conservatives unwilling to embrace change. He also fired the company's director of marine operations, David Lockridge, who'd raised safety concerns. Lockridge had filed a formal report saying the hull wasn't adequately tested, and would endanger passengers' lives. After being fired, he was sued by the company for breaching his NDA. A man trying to save others' lives was the one dragged into court. Let's talk about the 5 aboard. Besides Rush, there was a Pakistani father and son. The father, Shahzada Dawood, head of one of Pakistan's wealthiest business families. The son, Suleiman, was only 19, and had just received his college acceptance letter. The boy actually didn't want to go at all. His aunt later told the media that Suleiman was terrified of the trip, but it was a Father's Day gift for his dad, and he didn't want to let him down. 19 years old, and to avoid disappointing his father, he boarded a vessel that would never return. There was also Paul-Henri Nargeolet, 77, a retired French Navy officer and deep-sea explorer, one of the people in the world who knew the Titanic wreck best. He'd visited the wreck site many times and always returned safely. This time, he didn't. A man who studied the deep sea his whole life died in the deep sea in the end. The 5th person was Hamish Harding, a British billionaire and explorer. He held a round-the-world flight speed record, and had reached the deepest point of the Mariana Trench. A man who'd conquered the deepest point on Earth died in a submersible that didn't even have safety certification. On the morning of June 18, 2023, the Titan was released from its support ship and began its dive. An hour and 45 minutes in, it lost all contact with the support ship. No distress signal, no report of anything wrong. It just cut off. The support ship assumed a communications failure and waited hours before raising the alarm. For the next 4 days, the whole world watched the search. The US Coast Guard, the US Navy, and the Canadian military were all deployed. Everyone was asking, do they still have oxygen? The Titan's life support system was designed to last about 96 hours. The whole world counted down. 96, 72, 48, 24, all praying they were still alive. The truth was crueler than anyone imagined. June 22nd, the search team found Titan debris about 500 meters from the Titanic wreck. Its condition pointed to a catastrophic implosion. The Titan had disintegrated the instant contact was lost. 4 days of searching, 4 days of prayer, 4 days of agony for the families. Meaningless from the very start. What's even more chilling, the US Navy's underwater acoustic system, at the very moment contact was lost, detected an anomalous signal consistent with an implosion. The military likely knew the outcome early, but only disclosed it late in the search. In September 2024, what came out at the Coast Guard's public hearing was even more shocking. The Titan never passed any third-party safety certification. No classification society, no DNV, nothing. Rush refused certification, saying it was too slow and hurt his business plans. The Titan's viewport was made of acrylic. The manufacturer only certified it to a depth of 1,300 meters. The target depth was 3,800 meters, nearly 3 times that. The maker stated in writing that it took no responsibility for use beyond that depth. Rush said, "We've used it before. It was fine." At the hearing, a former passenger also testified that you could hear the hull cracking during dives. That was the acoustic emission of carbon fiber fracturing, the structure irreversibly degrading. Rush told passengers it was normal. So this wasn't an accident, it was an inevitable disaster. A man who scorned the laws of physics took 4 people who trusted him, sat them in an uncertified pressure vessel, and sank into the sea. Before 400 atmospheres of pressure, everyone is equal. Some say the rich were arrogant and got what they deserved. But that 19-year-old kid didn't deserve to die. He just wanted to make his dad happy. Some say it was the price of innovation. But stripping away safety isn't innovation. It's gambling with people's lives. The Titan's wreckage still lies on the seabed at 3,800 meters, alongside the Titanic. Over 100 years ago, the Titanic sank to the bottom out of hubris. Over 100 years later, the Titan sank right beside it, out of the same hubris. History never repeats itself.